Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. It is Wednesday. Back to being the greatest dad. Number one dad over here. Number two is not with us today, but we have another number one. We have number one Gravenberch fan to the point where you're watching him in training.
Yeah, it's Wednesday, people. It's been a kind of a midweek. Second greatest dad, like you said, Gordo, our running mate, is not here, so it's kind of sad. Gravenberch not in training, so it's another bummer. But I got my
Does he have
reckless
a
cough.
knock?
Apparently, like he wasn't in training, so I don't know. I mean, I don't have the access that Anan has because he manages to speak to Tiago. I can't quite speak to Gravenberch yet. I'm working on that, by the way. But yeah, I can't quite speak to him yet. But I got my reckless coffee to get me through it. So
I did not hear about that. Yes, I didn't forget to mention our sponsor, Reckless Coffee. It is almost the season, people. So that's the good thing. I thought it makes a good gift concept, by the way, because you have the mug, I have the other one. I'm waiting for Reckless Fridays for that one, but you can kind of like make a gift out of it as opposed to like maybe coffee does not cut your mustard as a gift, but you can kind of like make like a new gift. Say, hey, I'm a coffee guy, so I would love to get a gift like that. Hint over here for whoever's listening. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's go to. There's a lot to get to. I think the first news I was going to get to was actually your boy Gravenberg. Let's see over here out of our headlines. There we go. Ronald Koeman says, now confirmed Ryan Garner punishment is over. So he can come out of the corner where he was standing on one leg and then join the rest of the team now. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is probably good news for Gravenberg, right?
I guess.
But yeah, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't take it as great news. I mean, I guess if he's happy, we're happy. But I don't understand how you kind of like say, okay, punishment over. You have suffered enough. Come back to the national team.
Right, and it says there, if you are called, you must come. Like seriously, after the disrespect that you guys threw at my boy the last few months or so, because he just wanted to adjust to life at Liverpool. Like, are you freaking serious? This arrogant little crap, I'm not gonna say what I want to say here because, like, fun fact, folks. After our Friday show, Tim kind of messaged me. He's like, "Damn, you really went off on the stuff that you had to say," and I was like, "You know what? Fine. I'm sorry. I'll be more careful." So here I am being more careful, but I have a lot of things to say about Ronald Koeman right now. But yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, you can go for it. We just went from like R rating.
Hey, man, we're
in a nutshell on Friday.
we're a growing channel. The goal is to get monetized, Tim. So I do not want to be the guy that they're gonna look at. Oh, this John dude. Like, we want to monetize you guys, but this John dude, the stuff that's coming out of his mouth, we just can't monetize.
As we get sponsors, we don't want to shock our sponsors with that. So as he says, the same idiot who bailed on Netherlands for
exactly. Like, how can you say, like, oh, we don't respect what Gravenberch was done. It's disgraceful, and then going like, okay, you've served your time. You must come now.
I don't know. Yeah, if you're called, like, if we build it, I built it. You should come. I mean, here's the thing. I just don't understand what kind of. He says. So Ransan says, like, you got nothing to worry about. I just don't know if. I mean, what kind of a relationship that is at this point. I think it wasn't handled properly the first time, and we don't know the details. I understand that whole ordeal, but still, I think you could have handled a lot better because this is a young dude that will probably be a main piece. I mean, it's looking like, at least. I mean, I'm based on you, of course, but in general, when you look at him, I think you can see that he might be a main piece in your national team for years to come.
Yeah.
Why would you handle it like this? Even if he shows up right now, I mean, Gravenberg probably knows he's going to show up, he's going to practice, and then he's not going to play.
Yeah, it's just convenient as well. Now that you mentioned that he's like a young up and coming, because when they were essentially lambasting him in the media, he hasn't played a game for Liverpool yet. Right now, he's played quite a few games and is looking like the real deal. And now they're like, okay, you can come in, like your punishment. Yeah. You can come in. So it's like massively convenient. It rubs me the wrong way. And there's just something about these old retired Dutch players. I mean, I'm not trying to be.
Yeah, why is that? By the way, that's a good stereotype.
Right, like with Van Dijk every little thing he does is like, oh, Van Dijk can't lead the team. Oh, Van Dijk is not a worthy captain. Like, Van Dijk looks the wrong way, and he's the worst captain the Netherlands ever had. So I don't understand what's with these guys. And I think Chris kind of touched on it. Dutch international football is the biggest. I agree, the biggest bitch fest. So much bitching for a team that hasn't won a World Cup. That's all I can say.
I mean, yeah, I don't know why they do. It's almost like I always get the sense maybe Koeman is over there trying to sabotage the whole ordeal as a manager. But I almost feel like, there are certain like ex-players, right? And you can kind of see when they are taking joy in their old club, country, whatever, doing well, winning things and stuff. And there's some that you can kind of see through their comments and through grinding their teeth that in some ways they wanted to be the last ones to get that. And, not as happy with the new generation, because obviously as new generations win, your value as the old generation goes down. I mean, I'm here in Chicago. I mean, I hate the Bears. That's a different story. But, like the 85 Bears, right?
Right.
So the 85 Bears, everybody's still like 85 Bears, 85 Bears. I mean, if the Bears won last year, as an 85 Bear, your stock level goes from here all the way down here behind the camera, because now there's a new generation that everybody is going to be on. So I get that feeling with some of the Dutch players where they're like, they want to be the last ones to have some kind of like, like a presence.
Right.
And they don't want to. So they're like interfering in everything. They're over the top criticizing and making themselves look like they will never be as good as us. You know what I mean? And then the other guy's like, yeah, never as good as us.
That's again, very weird talk for a bunch of guys who hasn't even won a World Cup, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. But I mean, that was some team, and it was a team to watch. Like Koeman was their goals and stuff like that.
No question.
White card and stuff, but. I mean, that was them, man. Like,
that was them.
Time to move on.
Why can't they all be like Rush, like Barnes, like Dalglish, going into Anfield, supporting the hell out of Salah, supporting the hell out of Mane, right? Like, these are our next generation. Like, if you love the club, if you love your country, no matter who comes in, you just come in and go like, oh, good for them. Why can't we all just get along, people? Seriously.
I think it's more of I think, being comfortable in your skin, maybe. Like, if you're Ian Rush or if you're Dalglish, your value is still going to be the same. Okay, like we won. We won everything under the sun in the last 3-4 years over here, and they are still who they are. They did not get them. And, maybe because, Chris says, Van Basten, I forgot him. Like, it's almost reminds me slightly of and this was even bigger names, I feel like, than the Belgium national team right now, who can't get to do anything because they have like a lot of good pieces. And they're underachievements. So there is a lot more, obviously, insecurities that come with it, because you're a lot easier to lose your value. Whereas, I don't know, if you're like Rush and Barnes and stuff like that, your status is never going to change regardless of what happens. And it's been proven that, here we go. As a Bear fan, the 85 Bears stock can never go down. They are the kings of the city, Ryan, because the Bears suck and they cannot do shit. When Bears were halfway decent, nobody talked about the 85 Bears. Everybody was, I don't want to use, I was almost using your phrase, but I started with writing, but then I'm not going to. Let's see the train, right?
No, let's not do.
And, Briggs, these are the next midway monsters, blah, blah, blah. And nobody was talking the 85. So I get the same sense over there. I didn't know Ryan was a Bears fan. It must be painful, because I'm pretty sure Ryan is in Michigan. So reluctant Bear fan. Okay, so let's get to this other one. This just kind of you just shared. It's been going all over the place now, and I don't know where to. Ryan is in Indiana. That's right. Liverpool not planning to enter the race to sign Fluminense midfielder Andre in January. How much stock do we put into this? Everybody has confirmed it, so it's not only one source. But is it just? We were not going to sign Ellison either And we had changed our minds. We have moved
Yeah.
on from Van Dijk and stuff too. Is it
Yeah.
one of those where we don't want to be like, yeah, we're in the bidding war? I mean, it doesn't make sense to say that either.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And hopefully, in terms of the stock that we're going to be putting into it, hopefully it's not too much, like in terms of the truth. Personally, I think I still have hope, but then I don't know. When I was looking at this whole thing, I ran across a tweet that Andre's 5'8", right? So if Andre's 5'8", and we're going to have him playing as our defensive midfielder, what does that tell you, Tim? Because defensive midfielders,
I can be a defensive midfielder.
Right. You can be a defensive midfielder, but in terms of like, in terms of
I
clubs,
still have a chance.
right? In terms of clubs' philosophy changing, because if we get him, he's definitely going to play the 6. We're not going to put him as an 8. We have so many 8s right now. So is this a change in philosophy? Because we've had Hendo at the 6. Hendo isn't a slouch. He's like 6'1", right? He's a bruiser. He can run for days. We've had Fabinho, who's strong, long, and can tackle. Like, we get this guy, he's feisty, but he's not necessarily the tallest guy, not necessarily the strongest guy.
Okay, now that you brought heights, and I'm taking that a little personally, but let's keep going. Regardless.
Yes. So it kind
of. I
didn't
know this, for example, Enzo. I was looking at Enzo Fernandez. I'm like trying to pick a couple of who I consider to be not physically
right.
Like not physical specimen kind of guys. He is 5'10".
Right.
Conte, see, here's another one. Conte and Fernandinho. Conte is a good one. Let's look at Conte's height over here. What do you think Conte's height is?
Conte played in a midfield too, though, didn't he?
He was defensive. I mean, he was probably like the best defensive midfield in this.
No. I mean like he played with a partner, though, didn't he? In defensive midfield.
Sometimes not. Mostly not, I would say.
I guess it's just the Fabinho.
And he was 5'7".
Fair point. I guess it's the Fabinho bias running in my.
I think you're kind of basing on what we had. Fernandinho was 5'10" as well. That's odd, by the way, because like those are like the names that I would have come up with too. Like Fernandinho, I was looking. That's why I pulled up like Enzo's height and stuff.
Right.
Because they do not look like on the pitch like they're like big boys. Yeah, Conte was like a single. Okay. I know at one point they did a double, but that was just like a phase. That's when he was right when he first got there after Leicester. But Conte, Fernandinho, like Ando, I guess slightly taller. I think height is down the list as far as attributes for CDM, says Ryan. And I think you're kind of basing on what we got from Fabinho.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I want somebody more physical who can win the balls in the air too. It wouldn't hurt, but maybe in terms of what we're looking for in terms of attributes, not necessarily. I think it's more important that you can, work in tight spaces, cut off attacks, know where to be, fill in spaces and stuff like that. So if you can do all those, I did not. I know Ryan was. Not Ryan. I'm sorry. Yellow was raving about him on Monday night's podcast, having seen like the last cup final or whatever he played in. But Andre is 5'9". Says.
Ooh, I'm off an inch.
Andre,
right?
yes.
I'm off an inch.
So you'll get there. We'll stretch him out. And if it says 5'9" in the stats, he's probably like 5'8". That's how I go.
5'9" with shoes, right?
That's usually how that goes. The stat is slightly always exaggerated.
Regardless of what I feel about him physically, regardless of what we feel about like height and everything, we do need someone to take that 6th spot.
Yes.
Like for everyone, praising McAllister, the Luton game kind of exposed him again. The Luton game wasn't a good game for the McAllister stockholders at the 6, unfortunately. So
I think like I say, it's not his spot. So you do see some of his stuff, when he plays there, but overall you can tell. It's not. And, he has a couple of like brain farts occasionally, which like, I don't know. That's because you can get away with a brain fart like that at the 8, but not necessarily at the 6.
Right.
Because you're like, during the build up, you can kind of like, like force something and be like, yep, that was not the place to force that pass. But you can force that pass in the final third and get away with that. Chris says McAllister's a square peg in a round hole. It's not so simple. And I agree. I think we're just kind of like forcing the issue. Polina will be leaving in January, has a release clause. Yes, so Fulham is in the mix with Andre. Supposedly a couple of other teams, whatever that means. So basically, Polina is like, okay, now we're gonna increase the bids. I mean, Andre can pull a Caicedo and be like, hey, I promised Liverpool or something like that. Or
Right.
I mean, that could be maybe we're going after Polina and they're gonna get Andre. I don't know. Polina was rumored to go where? Right
Bayern.
before. Was it
Bayern,
Bayern?
right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It was Bayern, right? So maybe that's finally happening because that came in at the very, very last minute and they could not get it over the line. So maybe that's a possibility, and they're gonna replace him because obviously they're gonna have the money coming from Polina. But I don't know. I think it's like a lot of talks. Yeah, it was Bayern. A lot of talk about. I mean, obviously they're going to they want to get everything out there so that they're like, hey, we're taking bids, we're taking offers, so
Right.
that everybody kind of like jumps on board with that. So I don't know. I read it first. I was like, what? But then I'm like, I mean, it's just too early.
Anything could happen.
And I think Chris was calling it kind of like clickbait. It's in news. Like I don't expect Liverpool to come out and be like, yes, we're going to outbid everyone, because that's just freaking stupid. So if they said that, I will be probably more pissed than saying like, yeah, not planning. We're not getting into a race. Not getting into a race to sign basically means we're gonna come in with an offer. You either take it or then we move on to our other next person, kind of a thing. I don't think it's not like we're not interested in him. It's more like you're not going to play this game with us. And if the player wants to come here over like Fulham, and maybe 2 years ago, I can see Andre saying, you know what, maybe I'll start with Fulham first. But don't you think Andre is watching our games and saying, or watching the podcast and saying, Chris is saying McAllister's a square peg in a round hole. He's like, dude, I'm just gonna like plug right in as a starting six over here, zero competition. So wouldn't it be really comfortable saying, yeah, I'll go to Liverpool? Whereas 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he might have been like, well, I'm not gonna replace Fabinho. At least I'll get to play at Fulham or whatever.
Yeah. It's I mean, if you see our team and you see that Klopp clearly doesn't trust Endo, you'd be licking your lips to come over and then just cement your place as the starting six, right? And obviously, he clearly is a confident player. He backs himself, so that's obviously great.
Yeah.
And I think if we are going to be serious and challenging for, let's say, a title this year, if we are going to maintain our position in the league table right now, which is like really close to City, we absolutely have to get a DM, because games like the Luton game, I don't know. I think bare minimum for that game is a clean sheet. And I think with a proper DM, someone absolutely stops that counterattack that Luton did, hacks someone down for a yellow card. Someone with the tactical nous, I guess, in that actual position, which unfortunately McAllister doesn't have, right? Yeah. So obviously we're a team in transition. Obviously this is kind of a season where we're just trying to get everyone to gel. But considering, Spurs are going to have some players injured for a bit, Arsenal aren't looking as good as they were last year. I think this is a great time to capitalize and try and go toe-to-toe with City. I think Liverpool should absolutely pull every string that they have to go for him this January. So,
yeah, and I agree. I mean, not that I'm disputing the fact that McAllister is a square peg and it's not like, we're kind of like forcing the issue. I really think McAllister would be a lot more comfortable if he didn't bump into fucking Trent every time he turned around. And the Trent was like 2 feet away. But don't get me started, because I finally have.
Right. I was like, are we gonna go there, Tim? Are you serious?
No, I'm not going there. I've already raged about this multiple times in the last 5 days, including in my dreams. So I'm not going there again. But I don't think we're helping his cause by not giving him any space. So I feel like you're now not getting what you could get in that spot. Right, like kind of similar to, like, for example, you put Trent there. Okay, here's the positive we're going to get. I feel like when you put McAllister there, he's out of place, right? But you feel like, okay, but now maybe we get some playmaking out of the, the sixth position too. Well, now you're not getting that because you put another guy on his lap, so he's carrying him around too in the same spot and being covered by two players very easily. So I don't think we're getting what we can as a positive. So there's no point in putting the square peg, because there's no positive to be gained from it now. Whereas initially, I think when we first started the experiments, we're doing it. A, it was lack of options, right? But B, it was like, hey, look at this. Every three all midfielders can create now. You never know where that critical pass is going to come from.
Yeah.
Well, we know it's not going to come from Trent or Mac because they're on top of each other. Definitely not when they're in the middle of the field. So I feel like we're kind of taking away the positive we can get out of it. But I don't think anybody can dispute. And I don't know if there's a Liverpool fan out there saying like, no, Mac for 6 for life or anything like that. I think everybody realizes that we do need an actual 6 to play there. But hey, we'll see Endo again tomorrow and
Yeah,
see how that
hopefully.
goes. Spurs are in trouble, injuries, they're coming fixtures. Oh, what a joy that Monday game was, right? I mean,
Yes.
karma is a bitch, people. And I can't wait till tonight's podcast, by the way. Trying to see if Sully will be able to join us to represent Newcastle. But if he is there, minds will be blown because we'll have Newcastle, Arsenal, and Tottenham in the panel. And then also Fulham, Villa, and obviously me with Liverpool. Just watching and enjoying the show probably is what's going to happen. But go ahead.
Yeah, Newcastle is just really weird this year. They have games where they look like they're absolute top 4 shoo-ins. Then they have games where they're fucking shit, man. Like, seriously.
I think they're like those. The schedule is really getting to them. They were
Right.
not as deep as, and the Champions League thing, and obviously they're going to go all in for it. I think is I know what that means, but why not? Newcastle's us last year, says Ryan. Yeah, I think so too,
Probably,
right?
yeah.
But like yesterday, you look, obviously they're kind of like depleted, but they did look like a team that has like is wearing down, is getting tired. Like they played that entire game. Like they played a game earlier in the day, and Dortmund was just like playing their first game. That's kind of like, that's how it looked as we were like watching it. But okay, so here's the news that comes out from the weekend. I guess sadly we have to talk about this, but we'll definitely be talking about a lot of the refereeing and like Spurs and stuff tonight as well, because yeah, those injuries, and we saw that they are not going to make adjustments, it looks like, based on how they play with 9 people. And if they're not, that's pretty scary, because the Dutch kids, Van, that now I wish we got him, because he looks like the real deal. Well, he looked like the real deal before he got injured. Dude has pace. He's good on the ball. He's very physical. I was like, holy shit, he's the real deal. But I don't know. I did not follow up to see how bad it was. But the way he went out, there are players, but you're like, oh, I'm feeling something. And there are players saying like, I just freaking like tore or pulled something. And he was better when he came out. Chris says the Tonali suspension was a big hit to their confidence. I wish Tonali wasn't betting on that to happen. Oh, hold on. Let me put this in there because let's go to this news over here.
There's a fine line between foolishness and bravery, unfortunately.
Yes, right. That just did not make sense. I just did not understand. Yeah, 701. Was that even a 1? I played. Hey, you're a FIFA player. You play against some 12-year-olds like that, like where they they know offside works, so they press the offside button all the time, and then.
Yeah.
Mind you, here's another thing. Like, how stupid is Chelsea? Because it took Chelsea 20-25 minutes to figure out, we can just run through this line. Like, there's like nobody there. And but then you realize that's what they're doing, and then you beat them instantly. And then I thought Tottenham was gonna rage quit after the 3rd goal and be like, it's not working, we're done. Like, I'm just gonna start with 11 people again.
Yeah, it's just really weird, and people are praising Postecoglou for sticking to his guns. I'm just like, when Klopp did this during his first year, when we get absolutely smoked and stick to the gegenpress, he gets called naive. But then when this guy comes in, he's like, oh, what a heroic effort by sticking to his guns. Like, give me a break.
I didn't understand how that was heroic. What we did, I thought was heroic. We hung in there. We even had a couple of chances with 9 men.
Yeah.
But like doing that's not hero. That's just freaking stupid. Like that's not. It was a matter of time, and really any other team that wasn't Chelsea. I mean, can you imagine a team like City catching that, or even like Arsenal catching that? A team with you only needed 2 smart players to beat the 9 that was left out there And obviously, it was a matter of time it was going to happen. Asman says, just so you know, well, thanks, buddy. Subscribe, spread the word, which I should mention again. Make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel and go grab somebody who hasn't, slap him silly, and bring him on. Chris says, I'm losing more respect as the weeks go on, and the boot looking. Yes, like
Yeah.
and to be fair, I don't know if you saw the highlights or if you saw the game at all. Like Monday's game, they went down to 9 and stuff like that. Obviously, if you had an ounce of an argument for Curtis Jones's red, you had none with Romero's because it was like twice as bad. But it did not look like it wasn't refereeing calls. It was more like the amount of VAR and amount of stuff they had to watch. But I didn't find any of the calls really debatable or shocking. So I don't know how he would complain about refereeing.
I think the thing with Ange is like he was actually praising the officials afterwards. He was saying like, "Oh, it's a difficult job," and so on and so forth. I don't think he was criticizing. It's just I get what Chris is saying, like the bootleg.
No, he was like literally sucking up to them, like that's
right.
Bootlegging. He was like, "Oh, it was such a tough job." Like he did what Arteta said 2 weeks ago. That's on the chain.
Right. My thing is like he knows where the other managers, his rival managers, are going, which is like criticizing the officials. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna do a 180. And actually praise these guys. So I'll stand out and I'll look like the good guy in this scenario, which obviously people can see through it. It's just ridiculous. Like
he's doing the teacher's pet thing. They're like, yes, Mr. Smith.
right. Postecoglou's a good guy. He's a good manager. I don't think he's all that, but he's a decent manager. What he's brought into the Premier League. But come on, Ange, this isn't the way to go. If it's a turd is a turd, so to speak, right? Call it out.
Yeah, I hear you. And I do remember that because we did see that. I was actually showing Angie the highlights last night. I'm like, yeah, you got to watch this crap. And we were like watching it. And you know what I hate about this, by the way? I don't know if you guys have seen this, but NBC Sports, like I realize, they're in bed with the Premier League.
Right.
But them not showing, if you're showing a highlight of the game, right? And a game like that.
Yeah.
If that is not one of the highlights where you show in slow motion and see what happens, because it's a talking point, you're kind of like pick and choosing. If they did the same exact thing with the Arsenal game, because I watched the highlights to see the elbow from Bruno everybody was talking about. Yeah. You could not see it in the highlights. They did not even show in the highlights. And if you're taking a talking point out, that's very critical to the game. Out of your highlights, you got another agenda. So I was extremely disappointed week to week. And doing the line just like the pundits. Yes, by the way, I love that. So let's talk about that. I was going to get to our game. But
before that, they did the same thing with Diaz's offside goal. Like they showed it, and then Robbie Earl and Robbie Mustoe were like, it might be onside, might not. It's a judgment call. And then they just skipped past it, just like that. So, and
like I say, I understand you kind of in bed, but it just destroys your credibility when you don't call it out. They were very vocal if you notice, after the Liverpool game, initially everybody was really vocal, like saying like, yeah, this is really ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. And then an email got forwarded to all involved. And the next day, everybody was like, mistakes happen. I mean, they're human, aren't they? Kind of a thing. And everybody changed their tone. So whatever that email said, please forward it to me. So Arsenal obviously came out with a statement. Neville over here, who doesn't like any statement that's not made by him, wasn't happy with it. And I was reading all over the place, all these pundits and stuff like that. They have stopped criticizing the fiascos on the field. They're criticizing Arsenal for their statements. The only thing that irks me about Arsenal's statement is it's freaking 2 weeks late. They should have piled on when there was Koulibaly and not wait till it's happened to them. What goes around comes around. I don't know if you saw the statement. We were kind of looking at it prior, but why the kissing up or right in the train of the PGMOL over here by the pundits?
I love how you just skirted over the word that you wanted to say. I know what you wanted to say there, Tim. It's what I said last Friday, and you just told me not to say it. So I'm just waiting. My ears were like really loud. I'm like, come on, Tim, say
I'm writing, but going around this. Okay.
Right. Like, come on, Tim, say it. Give in. But yeah, it's what you're saying with like the NBC dudes. They're kind of in bed with these guys, so they always have to take a politically correct stance. Like sometimes you gotta get off the fence, folks. Sometimes you gotta take a stand. And for this, like the Arsenal thing, I don't know, man. I don't even know why there's even a shred of doubt. Like I laughed when that happened to Arsenal, but if that happened to Liverpool, I'd be throwing stuff on the floor. Seriously, it's just crazy. Like this is even a discussion. It's just crazy that they're letting the officials get away with this again. And I know we're gonna be talking about it in a few minutes with what's his name, Tierney, gonna be refereeing our game. He's back. Yeah, but it's just inexcusable for the best league in the world. Arsenal again. They're right to come out with a statement. We were talking about it before the show. Like, we don't mind the statement. It's just that, like you said, 2 weeks late, there was a time for everyone to pile on. There was a time for everyone to absolutely make this a bigger issue than it needs to be. It needs to be made a massive issue. But now, since it hasn't happened to you, and you're going like, everything's fine. It was just a one-off. But it's not nice if it happens to you now, is it? So here we go.
And keep going around saying like it'd be like that sometimes, and then move on. Like nothing changes if you do that. Like you have to take action and be like, no, this can't keep happening. We're gonna freaking like do what we have to do and fix things. Like we have to take action to fix it, which is what Arsenal is kind of calling on.
Yeah.
They say something like, okay, this is kind of how they finish, and I don't know why people were like, oh, this is so arrogant and stuff like that, but PGMOL urgently needs to address the standard of officiating and focus on action, which moves us all on from retrospective analysis, attempted explanations, and apologies. I think that's perfectly put. Like, we do not want... You can only apologize if somebody apologizes to you. They do it once, you forgive them. They do it twice, you forgive them. And then you're like, dude, like if nothing is changing, your apologies are worthless to me. And I think we're way past that with these guys.
Yeah. And Chris makes a good point here with the tribalism of football means it will never get fixed. Yeah, when you got guys laughing at each other for their misery, and we're pretty guilty of that too. We laugh at United every week.
Yeah.
So we get where that's coming from. It'll never be fixed. That's unfortunate. Like as clubs, as fans of clubs, we don't have the power to do that though. The PGMOL, that's where it would start, right? We can call it out all we want, right? But we'll never really institute change unless they do it themselves, and that's the harsh reality of it all.
I think if you got a glimpse of it, right? But it was only a glimpse, and it was only like a small minority that cared about the sport. When it happened to us, there were other fans saying, yes, this is bullshit, and they're right in being upset and stuff like that.
Unfortunately, nothing really happened, though.
But it wasn't full-blown. I feel like it has to be full-blown. What we're happening is, and I think maybe like what Chris is referring to as well, that it's always one team against the PGMOL, one manager against the PGMOL. So obviously, they beat the manager, they move on to the next week, and a new contender comes up. Somebody else who got screwed, they come up. They're like, well, we beat them too, because they're always going, it's like 1v11 over here, instead of all teams saying, hey, I mean, and they should be concerned, because I do feel like it is diminishing the value of the league.
Oh, it is.
Because for a casual fan, we're going to watch it either way. Right?
Yeah.
They could like stab one of our players in the middle of the field. We're still going to be like, oh, next week we're going to get him. We'll stab him back. And then we'll be back. We're going to watch it either way. But a lot of fans who are maybe like more casual fans or newer to the Premier League, especially, like you could be really hardcore into your own league, domestic league, and now you're watching Premier League too. You can sour people off because it's becoming, wrestling, professional wrestling over here.
Right.
It's scripted.
Yeah. And it's just really funny because it goes back to the simple fact of getting your calls right. Like that is just the root of all this. Like, make the right call, use the materials that you have behind you, which is the VAR, to enforce. If you made the wrong call, you still have a second line of defense to help you out, right? Yeah. And so to cover your ass, so let's say. It's just that it's ridiculous because they already have the second line of defense and it's still not working out. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's probably a bad reflection on the product. But, again, if it's not – we talked about this a few shows ago. Like, at what point will the people, in terms of, like, the financial aspect of things, start to realize, like, oh, right, like, this is affecting us financially. Like
Yep.
the whole bad officiating thing is drawing fans away. I think that could play a massive part in terms of like enforcing big change, but right now I don't think it's hurting the pockets enough just yet. So we're not really seeing as concrete a change as we would like to, if that makes sense, right? Uh,
Yes.
so it's the harsh reality. Arsenal, he told us to deal with it a few weeks ago.
Yep.
So
Mistakes happen.
yeah, mistakes happen. I'm sorry, guys. Like it's unfortunate. It's wrong. Simply put, it's wrong. But like much like we did, you just got to deal with it.
And that's the, I mean, this is the bad thing. And I mean, I can tell you this, and this is a problem. I know they're nowhere near the same level, but this is how I felt and kind of soured away and kind of went away from, like, following the Turkish league hardcore. Uh,
Mhm.
because it was the same thing, because of like the political stuff that was going on, and which still happens, but not
Yeah,
as obvious now, because they are kind of attacking it. Bunch of referees had to retire, bunch had to like resign and stuff like that, to get it kind of fixed. I mean, they literally overhauled the entire thing, and then they still have like a couple of problems, but like Galatasaray being backed and stuff like that. And when you feel, hey, what happens on the pitch is not really that big of a deal, and you're talking more about refereeing, like Chris says, who's assigned, what's going on, and like, we're not talking starting 11s, but we're talking about Paul Tierney being there.
hmm
That's when shit goes downhill, and that's when you lose fans. And I would think the club should be concerned about it. The Premier League should be concerned about it and say, hey, I mean, it's all about money, right? You are diminishing our value. And I would think if you're another league in Europe, you might be looking at this and saying, because I don't know if this affects players as well. I mean, that would be interesting to know if it affects the players or how much it affects the players. I mean, we know they're going to chase the generational wealth.
yeah.
Between the Champions League games, during halftime yesterday, or was it halftime? No, actually, it was right in between the games before the PSG game started after Newcastle. I was watching Mane's team play in the Saudi league, and holy cow, that refereeing is brutal. So I guess when the money is there, it doesn't matter. But if another league can't even come close to the money, do you think players would be like, you know what? Yeah, because this theater over here is too much for me, or they're still gonna stick with the league that's gonna be on top?
I can see that happening. Like we very rarely see these high profile incidents in the Bundesliga or in La Liga in Spain. Like there are some, but the Premier Leagues, especially this season, have been all over. Like I remember the dude from Anfield Rap being interviewed by a guy from CNN. So that's how big it came. Like a dude from a fan channel, right, getting interviewed by folks from CNN. So that's how massive it became. Like the whole Diaz issue. And I believe it was Kazi who said it a few shows ago. We don't get this in the Champions League. We don't get this in the
No, like, you don't get
yeah,
this kind of a drama. You might
right,
argue like a call, but yeah, nothing
right.
like this.
Like we don't. So I could completely understand like if let's say a Dominic Soboslai after a few years goes like, freaking hell, this is ridiculous. I'm moving back to Germany or I'm moving back to Spain, or hell, I'll chase the money. I'll do a Jordan Henderson and chase the generational wealth. Like, and it would suck for him because, like you said, the refereeing at Saudi is even worse. So yeah, good luck, Tom, if you're gonna go for that route. But yeah, I could definitely see it happening because
But
you
if I'm
know
going to play with shitty refereeing, I might as well be paid more.
right, exactly. Like you're gonna be paid like what, $1 million a week?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, some things become more tolerable at $1 million a week. So
yeah,
right,
maybe that's what they're like. Yeah, I mean, it is
yeah,
what it is, kind of a
yeah.
deal. Paul Turney, there are way too many referees from Manchester. I think the problem is, okay, so Paul Turney gets assigned to our game.
Nice.
So here's where I'm at with this, though, right? At the same time, you do not want them to not, because that's a dangerous game to play that I know from the Turkish league, where they're like, this guy can't freaking ref our game, that guy can't ref this game, and stuff like that. Once you start playing that, it goes downhill really fast, because you're
Yeah,
almost, as PGMOL, confirming Tierney's bias if you're not putting him in Liverpool games. So then, if you already announced that bias by saying, yeah, we won't put him on Liverpool games, like, how
hmm
are you going to put him in a game that now you can't put in another game where, Liverpool is right? Like, you can't put him in a City game now. You can't put him in. So where does it end? So I understand why they have to say there is nothing to see here and
yeah,
assign Tierney anyway.
yeah. I mean, it's because they just don't want to do what needs to be done, which is to either sack him or demote him to a lower league. Right? They never had they did that with Anthony Taylor though, but then
we're gonna get to his next. That's
right. They did that to Anthony Taylor, but they promoted him like one game after. So that's essentially just
put him on the biggest game.
Right. They appointed him to the biggest game. Like it's just like a slap. All right, Anthony, we're gonna put you in the lower league now, so we can look like we're giving a shit, right? But then the next game you get the marquee, right? So it's you gotta take a loss here for us. It's a good return for you at the end kind of deal, right? So like this is just the level of stupidity that we're dealing with at a week by week basis. So at this point, there comes a point where you just see too much of it, and the rage is just too much. The rage has just affected you mentally too much, where you're just apathetic towards it, right? You just hope that the ref just at least feels a bit competent. He goes like, you know what, I'm gonna call this properly today. You just hope that he wakes up good. His pillow was cold in the morning. It wasn't warm. He's having a good day before we start our game. And it's unfortunate that we got to come to this, but unfortunately, like as fans, what are we gonna do? We're just here. We just support the team, and whoever's gonna be refereeing is gonna be shit. Whoever it is, right?
I know that whole demotion. That's the thing. It's almost like they're like messing with us.
Yeah.
Like I take it as they're like messing with us. They're like, oh, we demoted him, but he was the fourth official of that game, and he actually, Klopp even said that it was Taylor who got in the yellow card. It wasn't the linesman who complained because he was talking to the linesman, but because he came out of his box and talked to the linesman, Taylor told the center ref to come in and show the yellow card. It wasn't the linesman calling the ref saying, Klopp is bugging me, and then, get the yellow card because of that. That's what at least Klopp said after the game. But he was the fourth official there. He goes to the Preston one. Gordon, number 2 dad in the world, sent us a clip. Too bad YouTube and Facebook, thou shall not share clips. So we can't show it here. But if you want to look up the penalty he gave in the Preston game this weekend, it's comedy. And how you see that and say, yeah, you're ready to come back, man. Come screw up over here. You're being wasted down there.
Yeah, perfect. Come back in.
I mean, I didn't look at like this coming weekend's fixtures, but I would put that as the premier game this weekend of City Chelsea. Yeah. How do you go from being demoted to really the top? Like that does not even freaking make sense.
Like I said, man, you just develop an apathy towards it, and you just hope on your game that the ref's got a good cup of coffee. Hopefully things are well with the family, everything's going well with his life, so he'll actually give us, do us a favor and actually call the game properly. And unfortunately, that's the state that we're in, right? Like I'm just like, Anthony Taylor, Paul Tierney. All right, let's just watch this. Hopefully it's not too bad. Kind of like,
yes, I think that's where we're at, right? Yeah. Like it's almost like you're eating something, there's an ingredient you don't like in there, but you're like, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot anyway. But then usually at the end you're like, I can still freaking taste that celery in the background.
Right. It's kind of like having McDonald's, right? I always crave for a McDonald's, and after I have it, I feel fat as hell and I regret it right away. I'm just like, I'm not doing myself any favors with this.
That's like me with Whoppers. Like I love Whopper, and maybe it's because like I don't eat a lot of fast food, so you're like, then how are you fat? But that's a different conversation. But I don't actually eat like a lot of fast food, but like that's one thing. Like when we travel, like on the road, if you're getting something to eat, I always get a Whopper, and it's always like, oh man, as you eat it, it's so good. But then afterwards, you're like, yeah, that was a mistake. And Burger King probably right. Burger King is laughing all the way to the bank, kind of like how PGMOL is laughing all the way. Like Chris says, I might have the motivation to write an article about this and possible. I would love to actually, because I am getting more and more baffled with coming up a solution myself. And I love how people were like, Arsenal is complaining and not offering any solutions. What the hell? Like, why is Arsenal in charge of solving the problem? Get in the goddamn room and fix your shit. Like, I don't understand how the hell that is an Arsenal's problem to solve it. But they're not teaching. They're not offering a solution.
Imagine, right? Imagine your toilet is messed up and you call a plumber and then you go, oh, look at this guy calling me over without a solution. Right? Like, bro, that's why I called you, right? That's why I called you in.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out the problem. You're here to fix it. I love how that they went, hey, so we can a guest writer coming right up to the side. By the way, I did forget. I want to mention this. It is getting a lot of traction and comments and stuff like that. Like the latest article, you can see Barak's actually. That's a good one. After his after the game corner taking quickly ones right after the Luton game. I don't know how that dude does that, but because I can barely,
Yeah.
I have to focus. I don't know how you because it comes out literally right after the game. A flawed model by Morgan Sullivan kind of like talks about the pay to play or pay for play, whatever you want to call it, system that the US has in soccer and stuff like that. Some really great points there. So definitely go and check out the sites on that. But I like the merry-go-round of English managers when teams facing relegation goat. Here's another thing, by the way. I really feel like, and I'm sure there's a bunch of British listening, no offense, but I really think that see, tested and approved by Chris, by the way, the flawed model article was for. So
don't read my Soboslai article, folks, because when I put that up, Soboslai started playing like crap. Let me just
see,
say.
you the jinx. You know what? I'm going to expose it for what it is.
No. Let's move on.
There you go. There it is. Our newest ace.
Yeah, he
hasn't played well since. God damn
it. He hasn't been an ace since, folks. He's been a joker. So
jeez. But yeah, so going back to the whole, I felt like I can't remember where I was listening to, but they were really outraged in Arteta's comments, and they were like, there's like criticizing like the British referees and stuff like that. I don't care if they're from space. I mean, can you dispute what he's saying just because he's Spanish? He can't say anything. It's just like freaking ridiculous that they were calling him out for criticizing. Mm-hmm. And mind you, you're putting a microphone in front of a dude after the game where he got royally screwed. That's everybody in the world except somehow the dudes in the VAR room see. I guarantee you, as that VAR is happening, there are 90% of them, the Newcastle fans, except the really optimistic ones, are probably like, yeah, this is going to come back. I guarantee you, as they were watching that, they were like, yeah, this is going to come back. But so you're going to criticize a guy for pointing out the obvious because British referees suck. Why don't you just admit it and try to do something with it? I'll tell you right now, Turkish referees suck too. They do suck in Turkey, but that's another thing. Like these guys, when they go, mind you, they don't get called as much. They don't have as many issues when they go like do European leagues and championship and stuff, like Champions League games and stuff like that. Do you think it's because like this whole Manchester thing or whatever, not only conspiracy theories, but there is way too much going in their head right now because of all the screw ups that they can't even make the calls because before they make a call, they think about the 10 different outcomes and the scenarios in their head.
I think that plays a part, yeah, but I think it's also like a frequency thing. Like with the Premier League, they're like exposed to more refereeing gigs, like tenfold. Like for the Champions League, they might get one or two here and there. For the Europa League, they might get one or two here and there. So less chances mean less chances of making mistakes. For the Premier League, they have 10, 15 games a year. That opens the well up for a ton of mistakes, which we are seeing. So I think that plays a part, right? And obviously, what you're saying, it plays a part because they know, we're under pressure here. We have to do well. And that's going to cause them to sort of overcompensate sometimes for certain things or to just go like, screw it. I'm calling it my way. So, some refs are going to go rogue and whatever. It's just like that VAR that they did with Diaz or like that whole Arsenal thing. So, again, Chris's point, the fact that we're putting the refs under this big a microscope is not ideal. Like, we're American Scouser, right? Not American referee Scouser or whatever. We talk about Liverpool FC, not the officials who are going to be refereeing Liverpool FC. So it's unfortunate.
Or anything. I mean, we're going to do the Premier League panel show today.
Right.
And
Premier League referee panel show.
90% of it is going to be the referee calls in the Newcastle game and the referee calls in the Tottenham game. Or or we might talk about the naivety of Tottenham as well, but I think most of it is going to be on VAR. I guess one question is, there's no way there are so many referees from Manchester and now one of them supports Man U or City. And, here's the thing. I mean, these guys are going to I can't see anybody being neutral. I mean, I can't see anybody being okay, I can't stand baseball, right? Like I despise it with every fiber of my body. But there are still teams that I'm like more okay with seeing winning than
Hmm.
others. Like just there's no specific reason for it for the
Hmm.
most part. But there are teams I can't stand, and there are teams that I'm like, I don't care if they win. I don't care anyway, but I don't care. I care less, I guess, if they win, kind of an ordeal. So I can see they're human, but then when your job is this,
Yeah.
the key is you got to be able to put that away and then like just do your job and
Yeah.
without that. And that's, I know it's not easy, but that's your freaking job and you're getting a lot of money for it, so freaking do it.
Right, right. It's like human nature for us to have a bias. It's like humanly impossible for us not to prefer certain things over others. But that's why you're a professional.
Yeah.
That's why you've been trained extensively, and that's why you have a job as a referee for the biggest league in the world. So it's absolutely not an excuse, right? Again, you're right. People make mistakes, but as with everything, there should be a balance. Like the mistakes shouldn't be as glaring as they are now, right? Again, a turd is a turd. Call it a turd. Don't say that, oh, this isn't a turd. This is like a pile of gold. This
Yeah.
is what's happening right now. Exactly. Like an offside is an offside. An onside is an onside. A
Even worse,
foul.
we're
Right.
yelling at the guy calling
Right.
it a turds.
Right. Exactly. Right. So you have two sets of eyes to see if it's a turd, and it's clearly a turd. And for some reason, both those sets of eyes don't see it as a turd. They see
Yeah.
it as something else. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
and it has been. Look, there's going to be a call. I think every season we've had like one or two things we've talked about that were like, holy cow, did you guys see that game and stuff? But
Yeah.
dude, it feels like every week there are multiple things affecting, and there is so much money riding. And I can imagine being a player and being affected by that as well. Like you're
Mm.
putting so much freaking into it. Yes, I don't want to hear but they're getting paid handsomely for a generational wealth. But you're putting so much into it. This is your profession. This is,
Mm.
everything you do all week hinges on what you do in these 90 minutes and stuff. And to get royally screwed, but very openly, I don't know how they do it and how they don't just slide tackle like Taylor or somebody else. Because I would not last. Would not. That's nuts. I can barely do it in an indoor game when there's a crappy ref. I don't think I could do it if it was my profession. And I worked for it all week just to get screwed over on the weekend. That's just like over the top. And the whole thing was in the past. And I know a lot of, I've talked to, like in the panel, like Fulham, Alex and stuff, there's a sense that obviously big teams get protected over the smaller teams by the refs and stuff. And
Right.
if anything, like I've seen this in the Turkish league, for example, where the VAR has kind of like leveled the playing field a little bit because you don't get those benefit of the doubt calls that big teams normally get. But I feel like over here it has not done that, and it's almost like been sort of. I mean, how come we never have had a City game or something against City having this kind of an ordeal? I mean, you go up and down those standings. I think you can find games where people have been screwed evenly, maybe, in terms of different levels. But I can't recall a game yet. What are we, match week 11 over here in the books? That
Yep.
City has been screwed. Makes you think.
Like that is just a rabbit hole, a very, very deep rabbit hole that we could possibly go down in. We're already 53 minutes in, so I don't think we have a lot of time to go
We'll
down.
be
But
here till pre-match tomorrow.
right. And again, to add to that conspiracy, the team that got the call last weekend, Newcastle, South, right,
Yes.
right. So listen, obviously we don't have the evidence to back it up, but it's just as food for thought. It's definitely something to have a beer or a cup of reckless coffee over and think it through. Go into that intuitive state and analyze really what's going on here. You might realize.
And I hope we don't go down the rabbit hole because, like you
Yeah.
say, I mean, when that happened in Turkey, where there was like, okay, I mean, it's determined. Like, there's nothing you can do. It's pretty determined because of political reasons and stuff like that, and who's in bed with who. Not literally, but figuratively. So it's Yeah, because referees are getting paid. I hope it's not Bitcoin because that could have fucking backfired on them. I think from I don't follow that a lot.
I never understood crypto from the get go, so I'm not gonna pretend.
Really, as
No,
somebody young, I expected more from you.
nah, dude. Like fucking, if I could, I'd keep all my money in my under my mattress if I could. For me, it's simple. If I have $1 in the bank, I have $1 in the bank. All of this stuff makes my head hurt. Like, call me a simpleton. I don't care, man. A lot of this makes my head hurt. Seriously.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I have not followed. I know for a
Yeah.
while everybody was writing about it, and everybody who was posting about the success of their crypto just went quiet on my
It's just
feed once the
yeah.
shit hit the fan, and then I don't know what happened afterwards. I never got into. I don't know. I never learned or had the time to learn enough about it to even like put any money on it. And I'm not putting some money in something that I don't know much about. I put my time in PGMOL instead,
And Call of Duty.
and Call of Duty and FIFA, which that's another. Yeah, let's not get started on FIFA as well. Before we go, we'll be here for the pre-match tomorrow once the lineups come up. But give me a score prediction real quick before we leave here. How does this team bounce back?
I think we need to bounce back and bounce back massively. I think a 2-0 would be the minimum. So I think I'll go for a 3-0 here, but trying not to be supremely positive because every time, and I know we're not going to talk about him, but for Gordon's sake, because he told me to put a bad word in, for Darwin.
Yeah, Gordon literally told us, you
Right.
guys didn't talk some shit about Nunez.
Right.
So many words.
Yeah, for out of respect for Gordon, let me just say, every time I big up Nunez to be the next big thing, he absolutely drops a horror show. Like for Brighton, like I remember myself and Anon going like, Brighton came from a tough Europa League game. They're going to be tired. They're going to be leggy. Nunez basically drops a no-show that game. And here we are, before the Luton game, Luton newly promoted side, they're going to sit back. Nunez has a ton of confidence with that Bournemouth goal. And he drops arguably his worst performance in a Liverpool shirt. So listen, Darwin, buddy, like we weren't going to talk to you today, but I have a promise to keep. That was horrendous. I'm not going to big you up anymore, Darwin. That's a promise. But yeah, prediction 3-0.
I can rock that. I was still like doing the Timuchin special on this one, 3-1. I just feel like we'll be disconnected in one way or another to let it go through. But yeah, I don't even consider like a bounce back really. The Brentford game would be a lot of things that Klopp said about counter pressing and stuff like that. I do expect a crazy press tomorrow because he pulled a Michael Jordan and he was like, I take that personally. But then he didn't make adjustments at halftime. So let's not get, I've calmed down from the weekend.
You took it personally that Klopp didn't make
I took it personally that he kept seeing that everybody was in the middle of the field and never thought to say, maybe we can get somebody wide. Just maybe somebody can play wide in this formation. Nope. Put Trent on McAllister's lap. Put Gomez on the lap.
We went wide in the 95th minute, and woohoo, Diaz scored a goal. Who would have thought, right?
Yes, I think once Elliott came in, Elliott's maybe like from watching from the sideline, he was like, you know what? There's nobody out wide. I bet you I can do a lot out here, and he did. So it's how we did not see that all freaking game is beyond me. But that's the thing. Nunez will get the blame, sadly. As he should for missing the goal.
Yeah,
that's
Sitter.
Wide open. Yeah, he's gonna make that.
Sitter.
But at the same time, I just don't put that game on Nunez. I don't put it on anybody but Klopp.
Like if we're gonna put it on Nunez, we should put it on Salah as well because he should be scoring that header. Nunez shouldn't have to miss that because that should be already a goal in the first place.
Right? That's true as well. I did say we were talking about this on the Monday night podcast. I can see that header going towards that corner. He just didn't make good contact on it because that is the good corner to go to because the goalie is coming to your way. So you kind of go the opposite side and you kind of try to lob it that way. So even if it doesn't go in goal, somebody can come in and slide in the last, kind of like where Nunez was. So it's the correct corner to go to because if you go to the front corner, either you basically the goalie is already going that way. Not to mention if it's wide, there's nothing gonna happen. You kind of like putting the ball in a good area. But you should make better contact.
Wrong guy as well to be on the end of that miss. If that was Jota, like out of 1,000 times, that's a goal.
That was Jota in either of those positions.
Yeah. Like Like, I know we put a lot of stick on Jota, but if he gets those chances that Mo and Darwin had, we have like 2 goals.
Yes, he would have the header that Mo didn't have, and then he would have the tap in that Nunes didn't have. He could have 2 goals in one sequence. Sergi says, I blame Linders. I don't know.
No, don't get Tim started, Sergi.
Don't get me started, because for God's sakes, can we blame Klopp? Because this is all freaking him. And he screwed this game up. And
I'm gonna clip
for him to say this team guy, see, you got me going, damn it. For him to say at freaking at halftime, we noticed that we're not counter pressing. It's not that the boys don't do it, and then he has to watch freaking tape all week to figure it out. So hopefully he figured it out. He watched the tape of the game, if you will, and then I do expect some ridiculous pressing tomorrow. So I hope the French are ready for that action. How well that press will be is, I think, more relying on who's going to be out there. But I do expect some crazy pressing happening tomorrow.
No Gravenberch, sadly.
No Gravenberch, right? Yeah, if he didn't practice, obviously he's not going to be there. So we'll see if he's ready for the weekend, I guess. But yeah, we'll see the press conference and stuff like that and see who's not. Gravenberch is the sitter versus Brighton.
Sergi.
Let's not go there. Let's not dig out all things over here. Because, there is this too, where Skipper Sobo, and ever since Sobo's I read that, he's been thinking I don't have to do shit. I made this. I'm the star here. Whoa. Okay, well, we'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tonight with the panel. Please do join us. It should be a good time. It's a great group of guys. So there's some fun banter, but it's not a meathead show by any means. Everybody has a good head on their shoulders, and I'm assuming there'll be some objectivity out there. But I guess might be pleasantly or unpleasantly surprised. We'll see tonight. But yeah, do join us for that. 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. We go live, and then tomorrow we'll be here right before the game once the lineup comes up for the pre-match. If you have not done so, go check it out, subscribe, do all those things, and then, like I say, spread the word. Just tell today on Wednesday the 8th, go tell someone, hey, are you following this channel? Because you should. And then if they're not, punch them, and then make them subscribe. We're resulting in violence.
He didn't mean that.
No, I'm gonna double down like Arteta over here. No, it's a disgrace. Just punch him. If they're not following, it's a disgrace. But have an awesome Wednesday, everybody. We'll see you guys later. Take care.